What's up, everybody? Hello and welcome to episode number 259 of the VK Bros with Jason and Alex Von Cannell, broadcasting on Saturday morning, the 19th of July. Beautiful sunny day after an absolute terrible weather event hit us yesterday, which I must admit, there was a member of our group chat who sent us some cloud seeding photos earlier in the week, and then all of a sudden some rain popped up yesterday. What are your thoughts on that, Alex?
Well, I'd had a conversation with someone during the week that was like adamant that was seeding. I was like, nah. Next minute.
Yeah, it's raining.
Yeah.
Yeah. Look.
I wrote a song.
You wrote a song?
I wrote a song.
Let's hear it.
At least the start of the song. Okay, it goes like this. Look at HR. Look how she pines for you. And every touch of her boobs. That's as far as I got.
Yeah. Man, that situation caught fire this week, didn't it?
So for those that don't know, there was a Coldplay concert
mm-hmm.
and the camera, obviously, Coldplay's kind of the big deal.
Yeah.
You know, I think they're playing at a stadium.
Yeah, and they've got like crowd cam and everything.
Yeah, so the crowd cam just picked up this lovely couple, you know, in the corporate box section that were in a loving embrace. And as soon as the camera hit them, he just hit the deck.
She like covered her face and turned around and he's just ducked down out of the way. And it was Chris Martin that said either like they've been caught or she's the world's shyest person or something like that.
Yeah. And it's a bit of the Streisand effect, right?
Yeah.
Because what you should have done is just like
waved, hello.
Hey.
Yep.
Yeah.
We're happy.
But I think he's the CEO of some billion-dollar company.
Yeah, called Astronomer, I think it is.
Yeah, she's the HR
head of HR.
There was other managers, the other girl to the side, she's like one of the managers there too, so she's like in on this whole thing.
Yeah.
Like it was...
Mate, who would have ever thought that a company's CEO would shack up with the HR manager? I've never ever heard of that happening before, ever.
Honestly, the worst part about it is imagine that's how everyone in the world knows that you like Coldplay.
Yeah, I know. Well, did you see those memes where the CEO, came out and wanted to apologise unreservedly to his family and especially to his children because he is actually a Coldplay fan and he goes through like owning all the albums and stuff?
It's so funny.
So look, it is funny. There's never been a worse time to get caught out doing the wrong thing these days. And I'm a big UFC fan, and although I've got to admit I probably don't watch it anywhere near as often as I used to because I just don't have time anymore. But one of the fighters was saying the other day, there has never been a worse time to be knocked out because of the AI generated memes that people do with your unconscious body now online.
Well, I know there's a lot of talk about how the nightclub scene's dying.
Yeah.
And people just thought, it's people aren't drinking anymore. But they're asking these young kids, and they're like, we don't want to get spotted doing something silly.
Yeah.
And have it online.
Have it immortalized online forever. Yeah, I totally get it. Like, how terrifying would that be? You know, the NRL players talk about it all the time because, there's always some scandal in the off-season or whatever, and that, players get filmed all the time doing silly things. And all the old players are like, man, I'm so glad that I came up in a time with no smartphones because we used to do way worse stuff and no one ever found out about it. Whereas these days, everyone finds out about it, and the internet is forever. So
it's kind of taking away the human experience, though, isn't it?
Well, it is. But even that, like, we've been taking away from the human experience because of phones ever since smartphones were released. Like, one of the things I hate the most is when you go to a concert and you see people holding their phones up filming it. You are never going to watch that footage ever again. You will never watch it again. The sound quality will be bullshit as well. Like, it will be absolutely terrible. You'll never watch it. The only reason why people film it is to post it on Instagram in their stories going, I'm at a concert, look how interesting I am. That's the only benefit. Just enjoy the concert. I even find that too with doing stuff with the kids. Like, as a parent, you want to enjoy time with the kids, not take photos of them doing whatever it is they're doing all the time. Like,
I would say with that part though, like, it's nice to have, because literally just before you started, a memory of your son popped up on my Google photos.
Yeah.
And like those are nice.
Absolutely agree. So I post stuff from time to time because I like looking at my Instagram feed as a time capsule of my kids growing up, right? But you don't have to take photos of every single thing they do all the time, every single day. And then you also have to think about the psychological impact of your children where you're watching them through your phone.
For sure.
For life. Like, I don't think that that's the right thing to do either. So, yeah, look, it's a tricky balance between... Because, hey, if you got your phone out all the time, you might capture something that's really cute, really cool, really impressive, that you wouldn't have captured if you didn't have it, but what's the trade-off? There's always pros and cons with everything, right?
Yeah, totally. But Scott Galloway talks about it all the time, talking about the plight of young people. And one of the things he says is, like, go out and make mistakes.
Yeah.
Like, go out, and maybe you just have to... Maybe if more people had that mentality, they wouldn't be so fearful of the internet goblins.
Yeah.
Or it takes the internet away, like the power of the internet away.
It takes the power away
so
from it,
something Dave Portnoy does better than anyone else in the world. He doesn't care if you catch him in a compromising position.
No.
He will lean straight into it.
He'll make a t-shirt out of it and make money out of it.
Yeah. And it's just the best way to do it. They're like having to apologize, that CEO having to apologize. It's crazy. Like, if you think about it, really, that's crazy. That's crazy that it's just because it went viral, he's had to apologize for that. Is just a unheard of thing.
Yeah, and it's so unnatural. Everyone knows too. They're not apologizing for doing the thing. They're apologizing because they got caught. It's PR. It's damage control. That's all it comes down to at the end of the day. And we all know what it is. So anyone who expects them to do that, like there was a similar thing. Have you heard about the Mark Latham story from this week?
No.
So Mark Latham, who is a very outspoken politician from Australia, there was a scandal involving him this week where one of his ex-girlfriends has tried to accuse him of, I don't know if it was sexual assault or pressuring her into doing sex acts that she didn't want to do. And she tabled some text messages of his where he was talking about shitting on her chest.
Oh my God.
Right? So, big scandal, right? Big scandal.
Mark Latham or Mark Latham.
Yeah. Big scandal.
Shart Latham.
But the problem is, when you play stupid games, you tend to win stupid prizes. And it turns out that she has a bit of a sordid past herself as an OnlyFans model. And now, so because she... Streisand affected herself. No one knew who she was because her OnlyFans profile was under a pseudonym. I don't know what it was. This is following on X. But people looked her up and they found her. And now there's photos of her all over the internet. And it's like, well, you're accusing him of doing these things which you found sexually inappropriate. And yet your history is you selling your body online to strangers. So...
I think Andrew Tate had one too. Someone's accused him again, and he's like, if I get 5,000 retweets, I'll post the whole conversation that we had where, like, she kept begging to come back. And
yeah, and like, I was literally having a conversation this week with a female friend of mine about, women's place in the world and, like, violence against women, especially sexual violence and all these sorts of things. And I said the problem is it's one of those issues. There is no real solution for all of it because you cannot live in a perfectly safe society where you feel entitled to safety at all times because it doesn't account for whether it's 2% of the population who are psychopaths or who you cannot go out into the world and expect safety
or
at all times.
Assume safety.
And that's just not limited to females. That is.
I drove next to the train station the other day. There was a crackhead walking down the rails.
Yeah.
Like, that's not. You never account for that in your algorithm.
That's right. But also that crackhead, if that crackhead gets hit by a train, everyone who's an observer will go, well, that crackhead put themselves in a position where they're in front of a train that gets hit. And then, unfortunately, when women walk home alone drunk through parks at 1 o'clock in the morning and something bad happens to them, there's this tendency to not victim blame when it's like, hey, maybe that wasn't a good idea and maybe we should be educating. Because it's not even just women who shouldn't do that. Men shouldn't do that either. You shouldn't get drunk and
Walk by the side of a road.
yeah, or walk through a park full of homeless people, because bad things can happen to you. And like everyone should understand that the world doesn't owe you anything, and it's on you to act appropriately at all times, like regardless of the circumstances. So we can try. I think about this all the time with the bullying thing, because having kids, bullying is something that's spoken about all the time, particularly amongst parents, whatever. And I was having a chat with one of my kids' parents at an event we were at the other week, and we were talking about bullying, and they were talking about all these anti-bullying programs that the school's trying to bring in. And I said, don't you find it so ironic that like a state school, for example, will talk about bullying and like we need to stamp out bullying? They don't talk about resilience. They don't talk about, literally training your kids in it to therefore make it not affect them, so then they don't feel the need to go and do it to other people. And the state goes, bullying is bad, never bully. And then you become an adult and the state goes, pay your taxes or we'll lock you in a cage. Like, you don't think that's bullying? Like, literally the system is built around bullying. And there was a really interesting, this is such a segue, but I'm enjoying it. There was I watched a segment from a Tim Pool podcast this week from about a year ago. And he was interviewing a guy called Andrew Weston. Have you ever heard of Andrew Weston?
No.
So Andrew Weston is one of these online debating guys, kind of like a Dave Smith, but he's essentially a devout Christian, and people would refer to him as like a far-right guy. I kind of tend to agree with that only to the point where his worldview is based around his Christian faith, but the far-rightness that he exudes is pure logic. And the problem is pure logic becomes really uncomfortable for people when you force it on them to the point where they have to realize that maybe some of their worldviews are incorrect or are constructed on something that don't exist. And it was really interesting to watch him do this to Tim Pool, because Tim Pool has made a career out of doing that to other people, right? So the conversation was about rights. And because Tim Pool always talks about, I know my rights, these are your rights, these are our irrefutable rights. And in America, like the Constitution literally says, your rights are bestowed upon you by God. So that's that's like the foundation of it. And Andrew Weston was arguing, rights don't exist. They don't. They've never existed. The only rights that you have ever enjoyed are rights that you can defend with force. It always comes down to force.
It's always like natural, the law of the jungle.
Correct. And it was really interesting because Tim Pool's brain broke. And it's the first time I've ever seen his brain break in one of these debates, where he literally started acting like a lot of the left-wing people he criticizes, where he started doing, mental backflips just to try to win the conversation rather than go, oh, I've never actually considered it in that way before. But because the logic was so sound, but nothing that Tim had ever considered before, it just broke his brain. And like I understand that, and this is one of those things where it's like, I think Andrew Weston is right. There is a reason why natural law things like you were talking about happen all the time. I remember when we used to work at Volkswagen, there was a staff member at Volkswagen, anyone who worked there will probably know who I'm talking about, who got pushed around an awful lot, even though they were actually a pretty good worker. The reality was, natural law-wise, no one was scared of him. So when women talk about how bad a ride through life that they've got it, to an extent they absolutely do. They are more vulnerable in most circumstances. Absolutely. No one ever talks about the plight of the small man.
Why is it that women prefer 6-foot men?
Yeah, for protection. It's a natural thing. So the thing is, and maybe women don't understand this as well, but from a male perspective, women and children will always be cared for and protected. Always. So in a society...
That's why I want a 7-foot woman.
Yeah, an Amazonian woman. You want Snoo Snoo? That's a Futurama reference.
I don't know what that is.
You'll look it up later. But so yes, women are inherently more vulnerable, but there are men in society who will step in to protect women. Generally, when it comes to the plight of the small man, they don't enjoy any of the same privileges that large men do in life.
Yeah.
So they get overlooked by women, typically, because they are small.
And literally.
And literally. They get bullied in workplaces or at school or whatever. And guess what? Because they're men, there's still this expectation that they just need to pull themselves up by their bootstraps and get on with it because no one cares about them. So, yeah, when it comes to logic and rationales and stuff, like sometimes it's really uncomfortable, but you actually need to dive so deep into it and get rid of a lot of these societal constructs which are in your mind. Because, yeah, like the bullying thing to me is the perfect example. Our government will literally put you in a cage if you don't give them money. Like, that's bullying.
I'll give you another... So, I think, schools have always shied away from the natural world in that, like, why can't you climb trees at school?
Yep.
Why can't you roughhouse? Why can't the boys roughhouse each other?
Yep.
Okay, that's part of... human nature is for us to wrestle.
It's a male bonding thing too. You roughhouse with your mates or your brother or whatever. And
90% of boys roughhousing is from a place of love.
Yeah, totally.
And sure, if it gets heated, break them up.
Yep.
Totally. But it should be like schools should be treated like ice hockey. And they should be allowed to throw down to the point where the refs go, okay, all right.
Yeah, all right, boys, you've gotten it out of your systems. Let's move on.
Yeah. But even the difference between the way that boys and girls learn, boys don't have the attention spans that girls do. Mm-hmm. So girls could sit in a class and be locked in for a period of time, but the boys should be sort of sat up and go for a run and go for a wrestle. And like a bell should ring, like ding, ding, and then they should all just start wrestling.
Yeah.
And then when the round's over, ding, ding, go sit back at your desk.
Look, totally.
But I can give you sort of other examples of this social construct, and we should probably talk about the conversation I had with you this week, where people just there's just this assumption of every structure that's built in society is the right one.
Yeah.
And the example I always give is like the road crossroads on a street. We, in the West, love the fact that there's bright coloured lights that tell us when to stop and to go, and the assumption is that is better for society.
Yeah.
And my argument has always been, it works until one person disobeys the coloured light.
Correct.
And now you're actually more exposed than when you were if those lights never existed. And the example I always cite is when the lights are out, and it happens, there's a power shortage, the crossroads still works, but it works differently. And everyone now looks, and everyone is now cautious, and everyone now goes through there slowly, but somehow the consciousnesses of all the people involved in that interaction all work, they all come together. It's
a collective consciousness.
To get the desired result.
But it's also everyone takes personal responsibility, and that's why it works.
And what you don't get if you're obeying the rules, you get the green light, you go through the intersection, you're not even looking for the person that is coming through and breaking that societal law, and is now blindsided you, hit you on your a T-junction, a cross, what do we call them? Intersections?
Yeah.
An intersection is the most dangerous place in a car. Because when you get hit, you always get hit on the driver's side, which is the short side. There's always a driver in a car. There's not always a passenger, and you've got the least amount of protection. When you explain that to someone, their visceral reaction is like, "Well, no, that just can't be the case." And then you go look at somewhere like, you look at videos of Mumbai or, really densely populated
Thailand
places.
And stuff.
Yeah, and it looks like chaos.
Yeah.
But it only looks like chaos to us.
That's right.
To them, it's normal. So I find it interesting that people don't even use the rational link between other civilizations. It's like the concept that I'm telling them is completely foreign.
Yeah.
It's not foreign, well, it's foreign in a different country sense, but it's currently in existence in this timeline that we're all in now.
Correct.
So it's not a crazy concept.
And the thing I just want to reiterate on that point about the intersections is, like you're saying, when the lights work, the majority of people follow the lights and do the right things. But where the accidents happen is when you intersect with the 2% who don't follow the rules, who do exist in society. They are there. And that intersection is a microcosm for all interactions that you will experience in the world. 98% of the people that you deal with will be rule followers who will do the right thing. 2% of the people that you deal with will not be. And that comes to sexual assault. That goes to corruption in politics. That goes to corruption in business.
Bad business deals.
That's right. And unfortunately, when it comes to things like business and politics, it's the 2% who are willing to do the wrong things who typically thrive and are very successful because they know the rules of the game are stacked in their favor. Because if they know that everyone else they're dealing with is following the rules and they're the only one who is willing to not follow the rules, there is an inherent advantage in that.
Well, okay, let's keep using the intersection analogy. The system recognizes that there's a problem, so the way that they attempt to solve the problem is put red light cameras.
Yep.
Now, I would argue, and think about this, and we'll see if you think the same thing. I would argue most T-bones that happen at an intersection aren't people who are just trying to scoot through a red light.
Mm-hmm.
It's probably people who haven't even recognized the red light's there.
Yeah.
Right? Whatever, you're looking down your phone, I've run them before. I've just, I'm looking at the light past it, I've run it before, mate.
Quite often it's you're sitting at the lights and you're maybe turning right and you see the green light, but it's the straight green light, not the arrow, and you just go, yep. It's a mistake.
So yeah, it's just a mistake. Well, that red light camera doesn't stop any of those examples that we've just spoken about.
No.
It stops the person that's probably going to be more aware of running the light and only run it through a gap that exists.
Mm-hmm.
And yet everyone's okay with that law being introduced. Everyone's okay with, well, we're going to send you a fine. So the T-bone that happens is going to be the worst accident that you can have on the road.
Yep.
And our best solution is
we'll send you a fine in the mail a few weeks later as well to help your recovery.
Right? That's with all things in society.
Yeah.
And I also don't think we should be aspiring to a road toll. I don't think we should be aspiring to a life with 0% risk.
Totally. We talk about it all the time. So safety and freedom live at opposite ends of a spectrum.
Yeah.
So if you want to be completely safe, that means that you're on the safety side of the spectrum, which means that you have zero freedom. If you want to be completely free, that means you're on the opposite side, where you have zero inherent safety. So life is on a spectrum, and none of us want complete and utter safety. We all want particular freedoms to enjoy, which means we have to take responsibility for the risks that come with those freedoms that we would like to enjoy.
I know Topher Field keeps talking about the car thing, like trying to race for 0 deaths on the road.
Yeah.
Like we've already established a social agreement whereby we're happy to have some deaths, or we're willing to accept to have some deaths on the road to give us the ability to use cars to travel great distances at a certain speed.
Yeah.
And the systems that are being put in place are clearly not fixing that or improving that result. And it's costing us the aspect of the social agreement that we want. Our side of the agreement is we want to travel at a particular speed to get to a particular place when we want to.
Yeah.
They're lowering that threshold. The death rate's still going up. So that deal is getting worse for us.
It's the worst trade deal in the history of trade deals. You are losing your freedoms with no increase in safety.
Yeah. And I'll tell you what, I'm driving this car at the moment. It's a pretty late model. I think it's like a 2023 or Mercedes, like a high-end Mercedes. It's got every bell and whistle. It's got all these safety features. And I can tell you, as a driver, it is making it less safe.
Yeah.
So, for example, it can't stay in the middle of the lane on the highway. It bounces in the lines, and it pulls the steering wheel. It that system you can't just switch off. It's on all the time once you get on the highway. And I'm fighting against it. And now my brain's going away from. I'm like, why is this thing tugging at me? New Kias are really bad for it. Why is it doing this? Like and then when that system inherently fails, which sometimes, the lines aren't there, sometimes the lines go where they're not supposed to go, and the human mind would be able to, like, you would just deal with it.
You adapt. Yep.
But these new things are making the driving experience worse. This car is more dangerous. Now, it might hold up better in a crash, but the risk of crashing is, in my opinion, from a driver's... Sorry, I've got to be careful about this. If you're a really shit driver, this might help you.
Yeah.
If you're a good driver, this is hindering you.
Mm-hmm.
So it's where, I guess, you've got to value...
Welcome to Australian society, where we build guardrails to benefit the lowest common denominator at the expense of the performers.
Actually, it's funny, because on the driving note, I made the argument too. I think having a blood alcohol level of 0.05 is a dumb metric to use to determine whether someone's a drunk driver or not. Because you're saying 0.05, it's a level where you believe someone's driving prowess has been reduced, impaired, and they shouldn't drive. Yet if your skill level is over and above what someone at 0.00 is, when you are 0.06, for example, well, if you're driving at 0.06 is better than that person at 0.00, why have they got the right to drive?
There should be new license classes for it. You can go and sit a license test at 0.05, 0.1, and if you pass, you should be licensed for that. Instead of having like a medium rigid vehicle, it should be like a medium liquid vehicle license.
America does this. They've got sobriety testing.
Yeah.
Right? So have you got motor controls? But when I tell this concept to people, they're like, nah, it's got to be something. It's got to be something. I'm like, yeah, motor skills. Can you do this? Can you do the alphabet? Are you in control of your faculties?
Yeah.
Some people hold alcohol better than others.
Yeah, of course.
Some people don't. But that's why just picking an arbitrary thing is silly.
Yeah, high performers deserve to be rewarded, for sure. If you put more, like, and look, you're you're speaking about this because you're an amazing driver, because you're passionate about driving, you have invested in your skills over a long period of time. Why shouldn't you be allowed to do things on the road that other people who have not invested the same amount of skills and training be allowed to do? It's exactly the same as getting a degree to work in a certain profession. Like, I can't just rock up at the hospital and say, I'm going to be a surgeon today, because I have no training in it. Yeah. But we essentially do the same thing with drivers. So, okay, maybe the analogy is this. I go and get a nursing degree, so I'm allowed entry into the hospital, and then just put my hand up and say I'm going to be a surgeon. You're not allowed to do that. But with a driver, as long as you pass the basic test to get your Ps, you're golden. It doesn't matter how skilled you are. As long as you just get past that minimum level, you get the same rights to the road as everyone else who is way more trained and competent than you are.
All I'm saying is I just want a couple of babies.
Yeah, exactly right. Now, we are almost half an hour into the show before we even talked about the subject matter. We are talking about Epstein this week because it does keep getting more and more interesting. But before we get into that, I want to shout out you guys in the audience, because I've noticed a lot over the last probably 2 months, but a massive uptick this week in messages I've received from you guys on our Instagram account. Some of the most thoughtful messages, and I don't mean like talking about how good we are or anything like that. None of you say any of that stuff. No. But you're doing the things that we want you to do, which is asking questions about things that you're finally open to for the first time, and you're actually taking control of aspects of your life that you've probably not really focused on for a long time. And a big one of this is Bitcoin. Obviously, we've been discussing Bitcoin on the show since the show began. Clearly, Bitcoin is in the news at the moment again because it's just hit all-time highs again this week. Now, just this week alone, 2 of you have actually used our referral code to start CoinSpot accounts to begin your Bitcoin journey. So we appreciate you using that code. Any of you who want to start your crypto journey now, please, the code is in the show notes. If you want to set up a CoinSpot account, we get a tiny kickback from them. It's like $10 worth of Bitcoin, so it's not huge amounts, but obviously anything helps. So some of you have taken action this week. I also got a really awesome message from one of the listeners about her and her husband wanting to Like they are already investors. They've got a self-managed super fund, and they want to incorporate Bitcoin into their portfolio, but they don't really know enough about it. So they literally reached out to say, hey, we've been listening to the show. We know that you guys are big believers in Bitcoin. We're considering it, but we want to be able to get our head around it before we take the next step.
That's all you want.
Which is exactly what you need to do. Like this is all about, and again, crypto is all about personal responsibility. Like there ain't no safety in crypto. There's no one you can call when things go wrong, right? Yeah. So it's all freedom, all personal responsibility. But the fact that you reached out and went, hey, have you got any resources that I can watch or things I can read to literally get my head around this thing? Because I hear all these good things, I see the results on the markets, but I want to understand it before I take that plunge. So, literally, that's 3 of you this week who've...
I had one too.
Oh, so there you go. There's 4.
4.
Who have taken a step this week to try to improve your financial future. And a lot of you were saying was because of the show. So, shout out to you guys.
Let me also say this. This does happen at this period of the cycle.
Of course.
Where you convert a lot of people in. What I want to say to all you people, welcome to the wild ride that is crypto.
Yep.
Understand this. You're going to start piling in. You're going to feel a little bit of the euphoria soon. It might fall into a heap. When I say fall into a heap, it might drop.
Can you bring up the Bitcoin 5 and 10 year charts? Because I want to illustrate this for people so they understand what we're talking about.
Yeah. I've actually got it open already.
Perfect. Because this is what happens every Bitcoin cycle. So, all right. So as you can see, so this is in US dollars. So it's currently sitting at 118,000 US dollars. Now, what we're talking about is this. If you can see where. So Alex has got his cursor right at the top, so it peaked out at 121,000 US dollars. But go back to 2022 at the peak of the last cycle. Okay, so the last cycle in 2022 peaked at 67,000 US dollars. So about 50% of where it's at today. It is that part of the cycle that people reached out to us last time to express an interest in Bitcoin because it had hit an all-time high. Now, shortly after that, in 2023, go to the low point. So then it dropped down to 15,000 US dollars. It is at that point in the cycle where the haters reach out and go, oh, glad I didn't buy into that thing. I told you it was a scam.
I walked into the gym and someone said, look, it's the poorest guy in the room. Great call, by the way. Shout out to Ben. Great call.
Yeah, cool. So here's the thing that you need to remember, guys. There will be drops in the Bitcoin price. It always happens. It is inevitable. So if you make the decision to buy in today, there is a very real chance, it's a 95% chance, that at one stage in the next 5 years, the Bitcoin you buy today will be worth less than what you paid for it today. But as you see with every single one of these cycles, it hits a peak and then it drops off. That drop off is people taking profits, right? Because if you bought Bitcoin for cheap and then it hits an all-time high, a lot of people want to bank some of that profit, so they sell at the top and then they buy again when it drops. That's how a lot of people make their money out of cryptocurrencies. That's how a lot of people make money out of everything that you can trade.
That's how asset markets work, yeah.
Correct. But you don't have to do that. Personally, I do a thing called dollar cost averaging. So I buy a certain amount of Bitcoin every single week, every Monday, regardless of what the price is. Some days I buy expensive Bitcoin, some days I buy really cheap Bitcoin. At the same time, I run a whole bunch of other investments as well. I'm not rich, just so you guys are aware. You guys probably already knew that, but I'm not rich, but I'm working on it. But the thing is, if you also save money at the same time and maybe put it in other more liquid investments that you can buy and sell out of whenever you need to, what that means is you can take advantage of those massive dip times by buying larger amounts in those periods as well and maximizing the return that you can get during those times.
So I don't know if I've shared this story before, but in that low period in 2022, I was telling people like, now's the time.
Yeah.
Now's the time. So I've been since 2017.
Mm-hmm.
So I know these ebbs and flows.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I tapered when stuff was going up really hard. I actually wound back the amount of buying that I was doing.
Mm-hmm.
And then knowing full well that there's going to be a dip, and I had people, like that comment as I went to the gym. Well, when he told me that around that same time, I actually put a pretty large order in.
Mm-hmm.
And look, to paint a bit of a picture, I don't know if this is too much information. I bought $8,000 in 2022.
Right.
And if I go now, it's like $55,000.
Yeah.
So I was in charge of my faculties in that
Mm-hmm.
I didn't let the market fear grab me like it does to newbies.
Yeah.
Okay. But an interesting thing I had when the guy that I converted this week, same sort of deal, asking all the right questions finally.
Yep.
I've known this guy for a long time. I've known him for my whole Bitcoin cycle. What I've noticed recently, though, because the case is becoming so bullish for Bitcoin in particular,
Mm-hmm.
literally the best excuse that I've heard, and I've heard it multiple times this week, is, oh, well, in a nuclear holocaust, your Bitcoin's gone. No joke. 3 times this week I've heard that's, and I'm like, and I said to him, that is your best argument.
Yeah.
That is the best. That's the only. And this guy even said it, and I just looked at him and I went, "Is that? Are you going to use that one?
In a
Is that the
nuclear
one you're gonna use?"
holocaust, your Bitcoin is the least of your problems.
Well, but let me tell you this: if Australia gets hit by a nuke, all your assets are gone,
Yeah.
except your Bitcoin.
That's right, because of the blockchain.
Yeah,
The safety
right?
of it.
A
You would have to
decentralized
nuke
network.
every country and every computer on the planet at the same time.
Then another smart, I was like, oh, what about EMP? Same deal, dude.
Same
I said,
deal.
okay. And then I said to him, give me $10 cash right now. Oh, I don't have any. No shit.
Yeah.
Of course you don't. Right?
Yeah.
And like this is, but like you're doing mental somersaults to try and talk yourself out of it. And that's, whereas before, people had a better excuse before.
Yeah.
Because there was less known about it. But now, if you think about it from a purely rational point of view, if the only reason why you're not buying Bitcoin is because of fear of nukes, it's time to buy Bitcoin.
That's right. And look, I will say too, to me, the biggest threat to Bitcoin was a few years ago when it was still up in the air as to whether or not governments were going to try to destroy that whole ecosystem. But they have all like widely accepted Bitcoin. Governments are buying Bitcoin now as well. It's become part of the financial system.
But I have never feared it. I've never feared that because it's never ever worked. Because the more people ban it, the more nation states ban it, the more incentive there is to do it.
True, to get outside their system. Yep.
Now, I'm not saying just go and buy it. I'll pull up another resource here. If you're starting a business, especially an online business, there is a thing, like we use this, okay? So this is, they're doing it for free, so this is a free shout out to btcpayserver.org, okay? Start accepting Bitcoin payments with 0% fees and no third party. You can get this wired up to your website. It can generate you invoices so people can scan. You've used it for Bitcoin Poker Tour.
Yep.
It's so easy. Would you argue it's easier to use than Apple Pay or Google Pay through your phone?
I would say that Apple Pay is the easiest thing for me to use on my phone. This is equally as easy.
Yeah, okay. So as easy as a $1 trillion company's best efforts at making a payment system.
Yep.
And these guys, this is not for profit. They'll take donations. They don't take a clip. You can wire this up to your website and you can start accepting Bitcoin into your business.
Yeah.
So all I would say is have an open mind and don't just buy sats. Start offering the ability for Bitcoiners to use their Bitcoin with you in your company and make it that way.
Totally. Yeah, there's more opportunities here.
BTC Pay Server. I'll send you the link if you can put it in the.
Yeah, cool. I'll put it in the show notes.
They deserve a shout out because we've used the product. It's great. We're going to use it on another project that we're working on. The project that I've been working on for the last 3 fucking years that's still going. We've just implemented this onto it as well.
Yeah, nice.
There's more news coming. It's so close. all the people that have supported it, thank you for being patient, right? It's getting so close, so close, so close. But shout out to BTC Pays Over, great product. And also think outside the square. Don't just buy it. Start thinking about how you're going to transact in it.
Yep. And look, the number one thing is, if you've never considered Bitcoin before, you're not too late. Like the old saying goes, the best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago. The second best time is right now. But you need to just research it. And like this listener who was talking to me about their self-managed super fund, she was saying that she's a very conservative investor. And like that's totally fine.
Boring.
But because inherently investing, there is always risk involved with every investment, right?
Investing is literally risk over time.
Correct.
That's the calculation for it.
And my response to her was, once you research Bitcoin, you will realize quite quickly it is the most conservative investment that you can make.
I've got an even crazier take on that. If you call yourself a conservative investor and you only have one source of income that is in dollars, then you are not conservative.
Yeah.
You are taking the riskiest bet you could ever take in the history of the world.
Yeah, because every fiat currency goes to zero, and we're well and truly in our way.
We should also talk about our self-managed super fund. So we closed the end of last financial year, and we weren't in it. Do you remember the date that we started it?
It was about November. It was about 7 months, I think, that we were in.
7 months, we recorded a 10.5% increase when we closed it off.
But we hadn't even deployed all of our capital either.
No, but still, the return that we got was 10.5, which is not what we were expecting, and we had much higher at periods in that time. But you got to draw a line in the sand.
Yep.
June 30, we just said, okay, what's that number?
Yeah.
Today, it's 25%. And I've said it on the show before, but we've got some new listeners, so I'll explain this again. When I was doing the research and the groundwork to decide whether we're going to go down this route, I went to all the mortgage calculators, not mortgage calculators, sorry, superannuation calculators, the retirement calculators that would tell you, you punch in how much have you got now, what return you're getting, how old you are when you want to retire, and it would spit you out a number. And what I found really interesting, I used 3 or 4 of these online free calculators, and not one of them gave you the option for over a 20% return. None of them did.
Yeah.
Right? It's almost as if it's built into the system to make sure you cannot exceed a 20% return on your superannuation, which is hilarious if you think we've inflated our currency by 40% in 5 years.
Correct.
Okay, so if you've been making 10 for the last 5, you've really made what's that, a 2.5% return?
Per annum?
Roughly? Per annum. And then we're seeing, now, props to Jason. Jason, we discussed what strategy we were going to use when we set it up. Jason got outvoted, and we went down a different path. We were wrong. Jason was right. Jason just goes, let's just buy all Bitcoin. And he would have been right because it's by far the best performing asset. We did buy some shit coins, which I do not recommend for anyone.
No.
Okay. You were right, Jason. I want you to, this is me, saying I was wrong, taking personal responsibility.
I don't need you to say anything. The data proves that I was right.
Yeah. But we are still, basically what I'm saying is we're now double what your superannuation is going to do in a traditional thing. And the other big benefit too is we know ours isn't being weaponized against us.
Totally.
In the political sphere.
That's a way bigger picture that people don't understand. And look, once
too big to talk about here.
Yeah, I mean, at the very basics of it is, I mean, look at our energy prices in this country at the moment, and we all know the main reason why the cost of energy is so high is because our government has been trying to ram through this renewable energy transition, which does not work. One of the primary drivers behind that is because, number one, you've got a whole bunch of rich people donating to the Labor Party who benefit from renewable energy subsidies directly from the government. So they pay a small amount of money to the government to then be given billions of dollars in subsidies in return, which they profiteer out of. And a really good example of that, I think was it Twiggy Forrest, who might have been.
Yeah.
I
It
can't
was
remember.
Twiggy and Cannon Brooks.
No, it was Cannon Brooks was the one who I was talking about, who basically got millions of dollars as a funding to start up a company, and then as soon as he received the money, said it's not viable in Australia, took the company to America and just kept the money. So that's where that part of the scam comes from. Now the second part of it is, as we have been posting on Instagram over the last two weeks, a lot of these renewable energy projects have been failing because they cannot find external investors. Why can't you find external investors? Because they know they're not going to make any money, because it doesn't work. So there was the clean hydrogen facility in Queensland, which fell over 2 weeks ago. And then last week, it was the offshore wind farm in Victoria, which fell over. And just for you Victorians out there, because I know there's a lot of you that listen to the show, the Victorian government's own report on how they were going to complete their renewable energy transition. I can't remember the exact targets, but it's like the 82% by 2030 or whatever it is. Their own report stated this: without offshore wind, to hit their renewable energy targets, it would require using 70% of your agricultural land for solar and wind projects. Who needs food, right? We can just eat solar power.
Quick side note on that. Okay, so my gym put up a post and led them down a little bit of a rabbit hole, which talked about protein intake.
Yeah.
And Victoria was the worst state for their government health regulations, say that someone that wants to build muscle mass should have 0.2 grams of protein per kilo of body mass.
Mm-hmm.
What should that figure be?
It should be 2 grams per kilo of body mass.
So 10 times less. But it now with that story, it's almost as if they want you to eat air.
It's almost as if they want you weak and sick.
Also, second gayest state in Australia, only the ACT.
Yeah. Shout out. Congratulations. So going back to the superannuation thing with these renewable energy projects. So in other words, they can't get investors, private investors, to invest in these renewable energy projects because they know that the cost-benefit analysis does not stack up. And even, don't forget, we covered on the show a few months ago, only under the new LNP government in Queensland have they actually changed the laws to state that any renewable energy projects in the state actually need to have a cost-benefit analysis completed on them, which is why they got rid of one of their other hydro facilities that they were planning on building in Queensland. So if you can't get in external investors, well, where can the government get money from to invest in these things? That's where the superannuation companies come in. So the government changed laws a little while ago stating that the superannuation companies had to have a certain percentage of their total portfolio invested into renewable energy spaces, and also banned them from investing in things like coal and oil and, things that actually work.
Yeah.
The good shit. The stuff that would actually give the clients of those superannuation companies superior returns, which is what superannuation was supposed to be about. It was supposed to be about making you enough money so that you can retire comfortably. And now we know that all superannuation is a tax dodge for rich people, so we should just tax you on unrealized gains the entire time. But these super companies are headed up by ex-Labor heavyweights. Cbus, one of the largest superannuation companies in Australia, the CEO of that is Wayne Swan, the ex-Labor Treasurer. So it's this vicious cycle of Labor governments in cahoots with superannuation funds, which they are run to benefit themselves. What's the rake from fees every year in Australia? Is it $30 billion in fees the superannuation companies charge?
I can't remember if it's 3 or 30, either of which is too much.
Yeah, I think it's 30, because I'm pretty sure our superannuation holding is somewhere around $4 trillion. So
it'd be
$30 billion in fees every single year. So they make $30 billion off your money that the government forces you to give them every single year. So you've got
They garnish your wages.
Yep.
They garnish your wages for it.
And then
they use it.
They use that money to build renewable energy projects with no use case, purely because the union workers get to build those, and it's the union workers whose fees get paid a percentage gets paid directly back to the Labor Party every single year. The whole thing is corruption. All of it is. So if you start your own self-managed super fund and you pull your money out of these funds and out of their system, you will stop having your own money weaponized against your best interest in this country. That's one of the biggest reasons to do it. Not just the fact that you're going to make heaps of money as well at the same time, or superior returns.
What was hilarious is the guy that said the nuclear fallout part. We also ran an experiment where I said if you put $50 in the first time I told you to do it, what it would be worth, and it was like 35 grand or something. And he's like, "Oh, that's not real. Like 35 grand in 7 years. Like, that's not going to move the needle. Like, well, it moved the needle far more than the $50 if you just held it, right? What's the $50? Oh, you know, it's worth like
7 years.
$8.
Yeah, 7 years later, that $50 cash is worth $42.
Yeah, and you can't remember what you spent it on. I'll give you the tip. I'd much rather have 30 grand in my pocket.
Yeah, and everyone talks about housing all the time. Like, housing prices have gone up 100% over 5 years. Bitcoin has gone up 1,200% over that same period.
It's funny hearing people's property to... So I'm very anti-mortgage on property at the moment.
Yep.
Right? I just don't think it's a good financial decision to do it right now. I understand people that want to do it.
Mm-hmm.
But if you want to do it, that's fine. If you think it's a smart financial decision, you're wrong.
Yeah.
And only right now, okay? Now, if you've got the cash to buy it, go for it. Go buy property because you're locking in that asset price. Go for it, okay? But the dumb argument that they come up with is, which is at the same level as the nuclear fallout one, is, I just want the security of knowing where I'm going to live, which sounds great. But you know what else is secure? Having 35 grand in your pocket in the first year more than you had before. And then doing the same thing on a little bit less, maybe having $29,000 more. Or how about not paying $50,000 in stamp duty before that? Like, Jason, would you feel pretty secure if you had nearly $200,000 in your pocket?
Yes.
Yeah. Does that sort of negate some of the problems? Are you worried about your rental increase?
No, well,
200 grand ahead.
Talking about security, look at what happened during COVID when the mandates hit. All of a sudden, people realised how little money and how little runway they actually had. So therefore,
Oi.
Hey,
the system's got him.
Yeah,
the system's got him.
Let me see if I can switch to a different camera. Is it going to behave?
The runway thing, I think, is so like, like cash. You know, having liquid access to your capital is hugely protecting.
Well, totally. Like I was saying.
I'm in a situation now too because my business, like I'm carrying some shocking debt with my business at the moment, and the only thing that's keeping me afloat is all these investments I made before that, like, I don't have a problem.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem.
Yeah.
You know, but people signing up, and even think of this concept too, right? You walk into the bank, and what's the first calculation you do, Jason, when you go to a bank looking for a mortgage?
It's what is the most money I can borrow.
Who does that? Like you never do that. You never do that with anything else. But they say, what gets you just under being poor? Just under being poor. That's the number for 30 years.
And don't forget too, because I used to sell finance, and they have capacity calculators. And capacity calculators have a thing called living expenses built into them. And back in the old days, they would only approve you if your living, as in the cost of your housing, whether it was rent or mortgage, was less than 30% of your total wage.
Yeah.
They changed the laws on that 2 years ago because they realized that no one would be able to borrow money in this country if they kept that standard. So they've literally made it like that used to be in place to protect people from financial ruin. And then they realized, but the banks are losing money, Alex. We can't have that, so we need to remove this guardrail to make it easier for the banks to continue profiteering. It's wild.
Well, when my guy was telling me about that, he's ex-real estate as well, so he flips the piece of paper over and he starts to do the exercise that he would do to convince someone from renting to buy. And he did the, over time, and then you get to a point where, there's more P than it is I, and and then I just grabbed the piece of paper and I wrote, okay, 30 grand here, 25 grand there, 10 grand there, 10 grand there. Okay, so by that point in time, I've got $250,000 in cash.
Yeah.
If I rented.
Mm.
And he's just like, I just moved the piece of paper to the side and then signed up for CoinSpot. Which is the only right answer.
Yeah, it's the logical answer. Yeah.
All right, let's get to Epstein.
All right, let's talk about Epstein. So, been a couple of updates this week. A couple of wild updates too. So, and some of them actually support your thesis last week of the 4D chess move by Trump to get Democrat support to release the list.
Yeah.
So earlier in the week, a senator, I think he's a Democrat, Senator Ro Khanna, actually put forth an amendment to a cryptocurrency bill, ironically, which, if approved, would have, oh, here we go. Okay, there you go. So breaking, the House Rules Committee voted 7-5 to block an amendment by Ro Khanna for a full House vote on releasing the Epstein file. So essentially what he was trying to do, put an amendment into a bill that's about to run through, which basically says that within 30 days, every single piece of paper that they've got in regards to Epstein was supposed to be released on a public website for our consumption. Now, that got blocked. Now, can you just actually bring that graphic back up again? Because it was interesting, the people who actually blocked that, which you can see here, because there is a website called Track APAC. So for those of you who have been listening for a while, you probably know who APAC is, but for those who don't, it's the American Israeli Political Action Committee. Essentially, they buy a lot of senators and always have done on both sides of politics. So what is interesting is when you bring up the people who voted no to releasing the Epstein files, so you've got Virginia Fox, who received $194,000 from APAC. Nick Langworthy received $91,000. Austin Scott received $34,000. Morgan Griffith received $27,500. Brian Jack $172,000. Michelle Fishback $44,000, and Aaron Houchen $15,400. Those are rookie numbers, Aaron. You should get those numbers up.
Yeah, I just want to put a bit of comment on that. To think that you can buy a congressperson for 15 grand is crazy.
But when you think about it, it makes sense to a degree, because a lot of people who get into politics, and I mean, she looks young as well, or younger than the rest at least. So the reality is they all get paid about $200,000 a year. So that $15,000, that goes towards their campaigns to get elected in the first place. If you don't get elected, you lose $200,000 a year. So taking that small sum of money to help with your advertising budget and all that sort of stuff, it probably makes a really big difference. And I would assume the main reason for the difference, the disparities in these different payments, is probably based on how competitive those jurisdictions were when it came down to the election. So
sure.
if you knew Erin was a shoo-in, you give her a little bit to keep her on side once she's in, but it's not necessary. Whereas Brian Jack might have been up against it. So it's like, we really need to hammer the marketing in his area. Let's give him $172,000 to make that happen. So look, why are we bringing this up as a part? Well, as we stated on the show last week, Epstein, the whole Epstein story is essentially centered around the Mossad and Epstein's role as essentially a Mossad agent through his handler, Ghislaine Maxwell, whose father, Robert Maxwell, is a well-known member of the Mossad, who also, I think he died going for a swim on a boat, didn't he, in mysterious circumstances back in the day. So
who was the Rupert Murdoch of the time?
Yeah.
In terms, he owned various media outlets.
Yeah. So don't you find that interesting, even in and of itself, that a Israeli intelligence operative owned large-scale media organizations throughout the world?
Yeah.
Like, that's always been part of the game as well. And that's where all this stuff gets into with, like, censorship, like we're going through in Australia at the moment, where it is an information war. It's always been an information war. It's always been a propaganda war. And the people who have held the keys to the mass dispersal of information have been some of the most powerful people on the planet. But it's been really wild this week to watch. Not only Republicans voting against releasing the Epstein list, not only the Trump administration and everyone being part of it literally backflipping from running their campaign on releasing the details to no, the details never existed, and this was another hoax thought up by the Democrats, and like even Donald Trump accusing all of his own followers of being idiots for falling for it, when he literally ran on draining the swamp and releasing the details of the list. You should follow, so the guys to follow, if you want to get a really in-depth analysis of all the information that's already been out there about Epstein, you need to follow people like Mike Benz, you need to follow people like...
It's coming.
All right, move on. Nothing to see here. Please, Pittsburgh. Nothing to see here. Please.
That was without notice for anyone who was wondering. And shout out to audio listeners. I hope you enjoyed that.
Yeah.
Yeah, look, it's been a while. But one of the things which has happened is a bit of an update, and I don't know if you can bring this up on the White House website, but did you see, I think it was yesterday, that Trump has actually agreed to release some information?
No, I didn't see that.
I'll see if I can bring it up.
I'm on there now. Is it in news or executive actions?
I actually saw it on their Instagram page, so let me bring this up.
It's raised more questions than it has.
Here you go. This is published on the White House Instagram page a day ago. A truth from Donald Trump on Truth Social. Based on the ridiculous amount of publicity given to Jeffrey Epstein, I have asked Attorney General Pam Bondi to produce any and all pertinent grand jury testimony subject to court approval. This scam perpetuated by the Democrats should end right now.
No, you perpetuated. You
Yeah.
perpetuated it.
Totally.
You ran off it.
And here's the thing, right? Not just Trump. PBD actually said something really interesting this week, because I've been listening to a lot of his podcasts, and to be honest, a lot of it's become very unbearable to listen to, as Adam Sosnick, who clearly gets money from Israel, continues to pretend that all of this doesn't make any sense to him. And but one of the things that PBD
Move along. Nothing to see here.
Yeah. But one of the things that PBD said, which was really interesting, is he went back through and brought up, during the Trump campaign, it's called Agenda 47. It was literally his agenda of what he was going to do when he got into politics. It's not on there. So to Trump's credit, although everyone in his orbit was speaking about it, he never specifically said anything about it, apart from there was an interview, I can't remember who it was with, but there was an interview where someone asked him flat out if he would look at releasing the Epstein list. And he said, I don't see any problem with that. I'd be open to it. But that's literally all he actually said about releasing that list, right? But it's been the people in his orbit, like Kash Patel has a fucking lot to answer for when it comes to this. Because it's Kash Patel who was the one who was saying, you know, the FBI, they've got all the information. The FBI director has access to all of it. And on day one, if Trump gets in and he installs me, I'll be releasing the list. And then now he's the FBI director who has access to all the information, like he said before, and he's like, yeah, there's nothing.
Open and shut. Case Watson.
Nothing to see here.
Have you heard the tape that they released with the 60 seconds that, yes, you know, that's normal? I just want to, okay, I've got a bunch of ideas going at the same time. So they released the tape.
The cell.
The cell.
So we spoke about that last week.
Different image from the first one.
Yep.
But now it shows that there's 60 seconds missed.
Yep.
But apparently that's normal because it's when the tape resets. So if you know that that's when the tape resets, even if that was true, which it probably isn't, because who's using tapes? It's 2025, right? You don't have to turn the MP4 back.
But also, if the tape resets, then how do they have that footage? If they reset the tape and use the same tape every single day?
So even if you would believe that, then doesn't it also create the possibility that that was the 60 seconds that you would go and do it, knowing that the tape's reset at 12 o'clock? Like, hello?
Yeah, but
hello?
even like, so Kash Patel, great example. because in all the lead up to the election, he was talking about releasing it. Ever since he's been in the power to release it, all he's been doing is trying to pour water on the whole thing. Even on going on Joe Rogan's podcast, when he's like, don't you think if I had that information that you'd see it? No, clearly not. Because you said they had it, you said you'd release it, and now you're saying that there's nothing. So the thing that gets me is it's like, he lied sometime. He either is lying now...
Yeah, which one is it? Yeah.
Or he lied in the lead up to the election. So you could argue that they lied to the MAGA base just to get votes. Did they lie in the lead up if this stuff never existed? But the biggest thing I keep coming back to, when was the last time you heard anything in the news about the tensions between Israel and Iran? Gone.
Yeah.
Gone. It's over. Like that. Gone. Nothing. Nada. Nothing. No chatter about it literally at all anymore. Seemingly overnight. Now, think about this. Israel retaliated against Palestine 2 years ago. That's still ongoing. They're still bombing Gaza. Now we hear about that. But Israel and Iran launched a couple of missiles at each other a little while ago. You know, we bombed some nuclear facilities. And then all of a sudden, they were like, considering the fact that there's been all these other conflicts going on that Trump promised to end on day one and hasn't been able to reach an agreement because everyone's crazy, now Putin's crazy too, and etc., etc. And yet he managed to get this crazy ideological regime from Iran just to agree to a peace deal and just everything's good. It literally stopped on a dime. All in the same week as they've been doing their very best to quash the Epstein talk.
Well, I also have another bit of a theory that the reason why Bitcoin's pumping so hard and all asset prices are pumping so hard is to keep people's eye off this Epstein stuff.
Probably.
Hey, get rich. Do you guys want to be rich? Does everyone want to be rich?
It is all the red pillars who are invested in crypto.
Yeah, but even the S&Ps at all-time highs.
Yeah.
Like, are they just like... And think about it, everyone on that list has market manipulation money.
Yeah, of course. But it's also like they've got the keys to the treasury now as well too. Like money printer go brr, let's make our problems go away.
Yeah.
But it does kind of fall in line with what you were saying on the show last week. So you were saying the whole Trump's playing 5D chess thing, and this is a way of gaining Democrat support to release the list, purely because if Trump's telling them not to release it, then the Democrats are going to do the polar opposite of what he says.
Yep.
Because of Trump derangement syndrome. And look, there may be a degree of that. I'm not going to say we'll never know. I'm sure that we will know one way or the other by the end of this administration as to whether anything gets released or not. But also, just think about, like, considering the fact that they're saying that it never existed. Remember a few months ago when they literally had a bunch of right-wing social media influencers rock up at the White House to receive their Epstein file binder, part 1 written on the top of it, and they were all like, oh look, we've got the Epstein files, and it turns out it was a whole bunch of redacted information that already existed in the ecosystem anyway. So that's like what Whitney Webb would call a limited hangout. You know, pretend that you're being transparent, releasing this information. But that was an awful lot of information to release for something that doesn't exist.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, it's wild.
So I'm still finding it so hard to articulate. So you might have to help me with this. Either Epstein, everything that we know about Epstein is real, and whatever power that it wields is more powerful than the laws of America.
Mm-hmm.
Or the Epstein thing is all a ruse, never existed. Maybe the guy doesn't even exist, the construct doesn't even exist, but the narrative was utilized as a weapon.
Yeah.
Or the information in that is so powerful that Trump's using it instead of like, I don't want to put anyone in jail, what I am going to do is leverage everything in this file to get what I want.
Because he's a deal maker. Like, I made that point
maker.
as well. Like, imagine, like, we all know that Trump's a deal maker. He literally wrote the book, The Art of the Deal, and he talks about leverage in the book. Can you imagine having the most
Bill
leverage?
Gates in your pocket?
Well, anyone,
Bill
any
Clinton
powerful
in your pocket?
person in your pocket, whilst you're the president of the United States, what you could do with that. So look, that's an option as well, absolutely. And that's kind of the point I was making last week about how, you know, the Lord of the Rings, the Ring of Power, and how it corrupts people who are like, oh no, I'll release the ring when I get the ring. I'll release all the details of the ring, and then they get the ring and they're like, ooh, like this is powerful. I'm gonna keep the ring. Imagine all the good I could do with this ring.
But I also made this argument to someone during the week. The assumption that jail is like the worst thing. But is it for these elites, right? They don't go to jail like normal people go to jail.
Dude, did you hear the story about Epstein's sweetheart deal when he got jailed the first time?
Yeah, it's like it was only during the week. He was still allowed to run his business. He got to go away for the weekends.
For the weekends, yeah.
Yeah, so we as plebs think that they should be held accountable. I mean, some people, anyone that talks about the kiddie stuff, they reckon they should have a bullet in their brain. Tend to agree. But I wonder if in the elite circles, what Trump's doing to these people is way worse than that. Like, I wonder if you can inflict more pain to them in the elite world. Just thought I was being swatted.
The idea here.
Yeah, the elite world. Then, because we're thinking about it like normal people and normal rules. And we also agree that the elites have they just play a different game. They live a different existence to the way that we do. I wonder if what happens to them is more punishing in the elite frame. And I'm not saying you know, it's resorts or whatever, but I'm saying, like, imagine, I wonder if one of the people on the list is so leveraged to do something completely against every fabric of their being. Is that almost worse than them doing resort-style jail time that we want?
Okay, so that's a really interesting concept to discuss, because I think there is a degree of truth to it. And someone, it might have been CoffeeZilla, put a post up.
Oh, he's going hard on this too.
Yeah, but I think he put a tweet up during the week, and it's really good thought experiment, where he basically said, at what price would you pay for 100% transparency? Because we actually don't know what the price is. In my theory, like I was saying before, I believe that the price that we would be paying if Trump went ahead and released the list was Israel probably would have nuked Iran and started World War III.
Yep.
I think that's what is holding it back. So imagine being in Trump's shoes, right? You campaigned on this. This is going to destroy your legacy as potentially the greatest president of all time, because he has done some amazing things, and that country is kicking some huge goals. They have done some things from a cultural level that are having flow-on effects all around the world to the positive, like
including here.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, a lot of the pushback against the renewable energy and climate hysteria is under him. A lot of the pushback against the trans agenda on kids is under him. There's a lot of good that he is doing. So can you imagine... So imagine that my theory from last weekend is correct. And the Epstein list does exist. It is being used by Israel to control people all around the world. And that's an evil thing. And a lot of the decisions that get made around the world that we don't understand because it's to our detriment every single day are being made because there are people on that list that Israel is using it to blackmail to get what they want all the time to our expense. But the price to pay to have that power removed could potentially be a nuclear holocaust. Have you ever heard about the Samson option?
No.
So the Samson option is a book, but it's basically written about essentially what Israel's, and this is not confirmed, but neither is Israel's nuclear program. Essentially, it's like the Israeli Defense Forces' final option, if a nuclear war was to occur, is to literally, they've got targets of every nuclear power all over the world, and they will send nukes to all of them all at the same time. That's called the Samson option. So it's literally, if we're going to be destroyed, we're taking the entire planet down.
I believe Russia and America have that too.
Yeah, so, but that's the thing. And that we know they've got the nukes, right?
Yeah.
And that, so, let's say you're Trump. What do? What deal do you make, as a deal maker? What is the right deal to make for humanity if you are being put in that position? Do you appease the brokies like us and you go, here's the list, they're controlling everything, good luck because 3 billion people are about to die?
Yeah, it's heavy. Yeah. I mean, there is a different layer of thought that needs to be applied to it.
It is an unwinnable exchange, right?
Yeah.
It's one of those like ethical questions, like, you know, the one they ask about, like, if there's a train coming on the train tracks and it splits off into 2 different ways and there's 3 people tied to one train track and there's 1 person tied to the other train track, which one do you choose to send the train towards? Do you protect the most people or the least, or, you know, why do you think that those 3 lives are any more valuable than that 1 life? Like, it's one of those ethical dilemmas that there is no correct, there's no good answer.
Yeah,
there's probably a correct answer, but there's no good answer.
Yeah.
And I wonder if that's a lot of what we're seeing now, which is why the pushback against it is so ridiculous, because you cannot defend this on a moral or ethical standpoint, or even a legal standpoint. You can't defend this on those terms, because you got to remember, we all think through the lens of the law and ethics and morals, because we're forced to follow them every single day.
Yeah,
the elites play a different game, and we know that.
Yeah.
These are the 2% that I was talking about before, the psychopaths who don't play by the same rules as everyone else. That's why they're so successful. And that's why I believe a lot of the reason why autism's a superpower, which is why all these autistic dudes run all these giant companies and make all this money at other people's expense, because they don't feel the same empathy towards the masses as what the average person on the street does, right? Someone like Bill Gates. Bill Gates makes his money by creating viruses and pretending to fucking protect you from them with vaccines. That's where he makes his money now.
Yeah.
His parents literally created Planned Parenthood in America. They are eugenicists. Like, it's in his DNA to make money at the expense of others.
Yeah.
And you can clearly see with the way that he speaks that he's on the spectrum. He doesn't have empathy for other people. It is a superpower. A lack of empathy is a superpower. But, yeah, I guess that getting back to the point of this whole Epstein thing, it is the defense of the Trump administration's position is so ridiculous because it's an indefensible position.
Yeah.
Which means if they're still attempting to defend it, what is the price that we will pay if they don't?
Yeah. Again, can we try and forecast? Can we make some predictions? Can we put some, breadcrumbs into the future that we can sort of pick up on?
Well, I would say that if that's the agreement that's been made, there will be no funny business between Israel and Iran for the rest of the Trump administration.
Mm-hmm.
So there'll be no breaks of ceasefires or anything like that. Because, again, let's be honest, if Trump knows that the Samson option is an option for Israel, if you're Trump, you could go to Bibi and go, hey, if you break the terms of this deal, we've got all of our nukes pointed at you, right?
Yeah.
And we'll get there first. So there could be that. So I think that deal will hold. Personally, I think that the genocide in Gaza will continue because it's literally the same scam that all of these different unpopular world leaders have been pulling, where if you're a wartime leader, well, there's no elections because we're at war.
Yeah.
Same as Zelensky.
This war's ultra convenient for Israel.
Totally. Look at Ukraine. Zelensky was supposed to have an election 2 years ago. But there's no elections because he's a wartime leader, right? It was the same thing that they were even talking about with Joe Biden when they realized that he was about to lose the election, before they pulled him out. there was all this talk in the space of whether or not a conflict kicks off, because then Biden could call himself a wartime president and suspend the election.
Yeah.
And if any of you think this stuff is outside the realms of possibility, just look at the shit we've experienced in this world for the past 5 years. Look at COVID. And I believe the Epstein list goes a long way towards explaining the global control during COVID. Because you're telling leaders who are compromised all over the world, hey, this is the playbook, you do this. And let's not forget, Albert Bourla, CEO of Pfizer, Israeli. 100% of the Israeli population was vaccinated. They were one of the original test groups for these vaccines.
But Albert Bourla wasn't.
Albert Bourla wasn't, because remember, it wouldn't have been fair for him to jump the queue. That's right, because he's not in contact with people. So he thought it was best, it was the most ethical thing to do, was to vaccinate everyone in the world with his product before he got his.
Yeah.
That's the ethical way to do it. Yeah, it's wild world we live in. I just think that's the question I've literally been pondering all week, is if it is what I think it is, and that's the deal that has been put on the table, what is the price that you'd pay if you don't adhere to the deal?
I just hope that, like I said on the last episode, I just hope we don't see a big sort of inflammation of domestic terrorism stuff to sort of take our eye off the ball, you know?
There will be some big news stories, whether it's terrorism, whether it's... Look, I kind of even think like... I mean, I think we discussed on the show, but that childcare worker from Victoria that molested all those kids, so that's still in the news space now. There was another update to it this week where parents at like a few other, it's like hundreds of other parents at other centres he worked at have now been notified to go and STI check their kids.
Wow.
So, look, that's a horrendous story, right? But they've outed this guy's name. There was another story saying that he's just been moved to a maximum security prison. So they're literally telling you who this guy is, where he is. Like, they're hanging this pedo out to dry.
Ah, right, yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's like, we've got two stories concurrently at the same time. The Epstein kitty stuff, which is all being thrown out of the news cycle, but to appease the masses who rightfully hate pedos, they're hanging out this dude to dry.
A nobody.
Yeah, this is literally like throwing meat to the dogs, right? Because this guy, we know what happens to pedophiles in prison. This guy will get handled by someone, and power to those people that take care of business for us. They're doing society a service. But that will be...
We've been denied that opportunity when at the elite level.
Yeah, and that will be the appeasement that's given to the masses. Well, actually, similar vein. Another big story, which I don't have a resource on, but Biden literally admitted this week that a lot of the pardons that were signed using an auto pen. He admitted it this week. Did you hear about this?
Yeah, but I don't think it's a big deal.
Well, it is, because that basically any of these pardons that were signed, and you got to remember too, these pardons were a first time in history as well, because they were preemptive pardons. So normally a pardon, just to reiterate, is only given to people who've been convicted of a crime. You pardon them for the crime they've been convicted of. These were preemptive pardons going all the way back to 2014 for guys like Anthony Fauci and Hunter Biden. So a preemptive pardon has never been attempted in history, and now we're finding out that these preemptive pardons were signed by the auto pen and not by Joe Biden himself. Which means, personally, I think that all of these pardons would be up for legal challenge. So I wonder as well, is the next appeasement given to the Red Pill MAGA group going to be Fauci's head? Are they going to remove his pardon?
Maybe.
Put him on trial and convict him, and he'll spend his last year of life that he's got left in prison, and we'll all be like, yay, we got some revenge, we got some justice.
And yet the structure will exist.
And that will dominate the news cycle, while all the Epstein stuff just gets swept under the rug and moved out, and the list will still remain, and the control that comes with it, with the ring of power, will still remain. And we will continue to live in a world where powerful people make decisions against the public interest because they are compromised, and we'll all know why, but we will never be able to change it.
And on that note...
On that glorious note, let's leave it there. Thank you very much for joining us, guys. Let us know what you think in the comments, or send us messages. For any of you who are looking at starting your crypto journey, please message us. Use the link in our show notes if you want to start up your own CoinSpot account. It is a really good way of you supporting the channel. We get $10 worth of Bitcoin out of everyone who signs up, so we appreciate that. Please like our show. Please share it with your friends. I was saying to someone during the week, we've mentioned on the show before that particularly during COVID, most of you guys were closet listeners, closet viewers, because the stuff we spoke about was extremely polarizing, and look, to a degree it still is, but I think largely what we are saying is probably on the side of mainstream Australian opinion in a lot of these subjects. Now, right? So please do not, to help us out. Help me, help you, and more people by sharing the show, leaving comments, liking all the content on all of our different platforms, because it does help to push us out in the algorithms and help
Send us some crypto so Jason can upgrade his camera.
Yeah, let's do that too. And yeah, help us build a big community, because honestly, Alex and I said it 5 years ago, when the COVID stuff kicked off and all the censorship stuff kicked off, we had a decision to make as to whether or not we were going to speak about it transparently and honestly, or we were going to do what the majority of other accounts did and just toe the line to build the account and to make more money. And we chose the option of doing what we thought was right. It's been massively to our financial detriment over the last 5 years. But now a lot of you who've been listening for that length of time know we've got 5 years of runs on the board, where I hope that you can see us as a bit of, not a trusted source, but at least a podcast where we attempt to find the truth. We won't get it right every single time, but we are making an honest effort to be as truthful as we possibly can. So we really appreciate you guys for being around and helping us out, and we would really appreciate if you can help us build the channel.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. See you next week.